What have you found?
As soon as I fired up the Tempest Rising demo for the first time, I got a good feeling. Watching the opening cinematic, which set the tone with cheesy dialogue from bulky armored soldiers and a reedy scientist, I couldn't help but smile. Music, UI design, and units seemed tailor-made to take me back to high school, when I'd stay up late playing Command & Conquer with my friends, hopped up on Mountain Dew, taco-flavored Pringles, and sleep deprivation. Recapturing the feeling through a new game in the modern era is a blast, and I'm excited to see what else the developers at Slipgate Ironworks have in store at launch and beyond. Whether I was jumping into skirmish to play against bots with clever AI, or ranked multiplayer, playing Tempest Rising feels as comfortable as putting on my well-worn baseball glove. My initial reaction is no accident either. The developers told me they set out to create a nostalgic real-time strategy game that evoked the classics of the 90s and 2000s, with quality of life improvements expected of modern games. Set in 1997, Tempest Rising takes place in an alternate history in which the Cuban Missile Crisis exploded into World War III. In the wake of widespread nuclear bombardment, strange flowering vines started to grow. These plants contain vast amounts of electrical energy, ushering in a new era of power for those prepared to withstand the fallout to harvest them.
A group calling themselves a Tempest Dynasty have claimed responsibility for...
Since the build I played was focused exclusively on multiplayer, I'll have to wait to see what story mode will bring. But it will feature 2 replayable 11-mission campaigns, one for each of the main factions available in the preview. The Tempest Dynasty is an alliance of Eastern European and Asian countries who were the most devastated by World War III. The Global Defense Forces, on the other hand, are an alliance between the United States, Canada, and Western Europe. There is a third faction, but we'll have to wait to learn more until the campaign is available, as they aren't playable in the preview build, the Steam RTS Fest demo, or at launch.
I think it was built for the Tempest, or maybe the other way around.
Of the 2 factions, the Tempest Dynasty called out to me, not just because they can create an incredibly silly death ball vehicle called the Tempest Sphere, which rolls over enemy infantry, squishing them into a fine paste. The Dynasty also has access to something called plans, which are used to activate faction-wide bonuses of 3 specific kinds. Your construction yard, the main building everyone starts with, can activate 1 plan at a time. All you need is a little extra power generation, and apart from the 30-second cooldown for switching plans, you're good to go.
Construction complete.
The logistics plan let me build new structures faster and harvest resources more quickly. Mobile resource harvesters move more quickly too. The Marshall plan boosted the attack speed of my units and gave them resistance to rockets and other explosives, as well as giving machinist units the ability to drain their own health to gain 50% additional attack speed. Finally, the security plan cut the cost of making units and buildings, improved the repair function certain units have, and expanded radar vision. I found a fun rhythm by alternating between economy boosting phases, where I would gather more resources with the logistics plan, then sped up building phases under the security plan, and finally going on the offensive with the enhanced combat potential of the Marshall plan. This sort of flexibility extends to other aspects of the Dynasty as well. Instead of having to establish a base with a refinery to harvest nearby fields of Tempest like the GDF does, the Tempest Dynasty builds Tempest rigs, vehicles which drive to a resource-rich area and harvest until the field is depleted. Then they're free to pack up and go somewhere else. Because of this, my favorite fast expand RTS strategy is easier than ever, particularly because it doesn't matter how far away from my base these self-contained units go. In fact, sending a few Tempest rigs to faraway places was a great way to let them harvest in peace, generating reliable cash for me without being discovered by my opponents. The Dynasty also has a fun unit called the Salvage Van, which repairs nearby vehicles. It can, however, also be converted into salvage mode, which destroys nearby vehicles no matter who they belong to, giving resources back to the salvaging player. I love sneaking up on opponents who aren't paying attention, parking a salvage truck next to their vehicles, and destroying them to both deplete their army and claim those resources for myself.
Building captured.
Finally, power plants created by the Dynasty can switch from power generation to distribution mode, which speeds up the construction and attack speed of nearby buildings. Yeah, some upgraded Tempest Dynasty buildings have cannons. It's awesome. Now that sped up construction and attack speed comes at the cost of taking damage while the mode is active. Thankfully, the mode will stop affecting buildings at critical health, so I didn't need to worry about destroying my own base for the speed boost. While I do prefer the Tempest Dynasty, the GDF certainly has its allure too. They focus more on buffing allies, debuffing enemies, and exercising control over the battlefield. My favorite synergy between GDF units revolves around the marking mechanic. Certain vehicles and infantry can mark the enemies they target. Marked enemies drop intel when defeated, which is a currency used for creating advanced units and structures. But if you invest in certain doctrine upgrades, think Tempest Rising's version of tech trees, marked enemies will get various debuffs, including dealing less damage, taking more damage, and even increasing the range of certain units who attack them. Each faction has 3 tech trees to explore, which is where you'll decide which part of your faction you'll lean into. Like the GDF marking an intel tree, the Dynasty has a tree which boosts the effectiveness of their plans, and that's just the start. In addition to fun tech trees, there are cooldown abilities enabled by constructing specific advanced buildings. They cost money to activate, and each has its own cooldown, but these abilities are powerful ways to swing the tide of battle while adding flavor to the type of strategy each faction excels at. While both factions have abilities which deal damage in an area or spawn extra troops, the GDF can also create spy drones, spawn beacons to allow building in remote locations, and even stop enemy vehicles from being able to attack for 12 seconds. Because the Dynasty has fewer buildings, with each basic building capable of being upgraded into the advanced version, losing a structure to an enemy engineer can be rough. To counter that, the Dynasty has a special ability called Lockdown, which prevents enemy takeovers but simultaneously stops the building from taking any action. The Field Infirmary was the ability I got the most use out of, which let me drop a stationary troop healing area anywhere on the map. This ability is a great complement to the Dynasty, which already has both special infantry units and vehicles to repair mechanized allies. There's more to dig into, and I can't wait to do it, particularly because the launch version will let me jump into custom lobbies with friends, team up against the very clever AI bots, which used impressive hit-and-run and harrying tactics on me during skirmishes. But until then, I'll have to settle for fighting alone, squishing my bot enemies with swarms of death balls. For more on the latest strategy games, don't miss our final preview of Civilization 7. And for everything else in the